South Africa has a variety of wildlife, in particular reptiles and amphibians. It has over 678 species. Some places have more than other, which we call a diversity hotspot. In this film, we'll be capturing the beauty and behavior of the reptiles and amphibians of the Northern Cape. So the reason we started this documentary, well, we didn't even know we were going to do the documentary. It was just a trip, a herping trip. Then we decided we're just gonna do a documentary about it. And then we, unfortunately, we didn't have any information videos about the Krabies. But basically, how the whole trip went was we were in the Krabies for 3 days. There we found most of our target species. Then we went to Springbok for 1 day just for 1 day there, just to for like a half stop. Then we went to Namaka National Park, the coastal area, and there we found also most of our target species. Joshua will tell a bit more about that.
Most of the target species we found there. We found most of our target species except the Typhlosaurus loma, which was high on our bucket list to find. Unfortunately, we did not find them. We also didn't find the other Typhlosaurus species that occurs in that area. But we found a few conchas, we found sclerotes. So overall, we found most of the species we came there for, which is about all the species because we've never herped there. So finding those species, we got to photograph them. So we got photographs of species we never found before, and that was the nice part about this whole trip. Most of the species was species we haven't photographed or variations we haven't photographed. So we then went to Springbok for 4 days, where we found also most of our target species. We found the Pachycactus nomaquensis, the Verdera nomaquensis, Pachycactus weberi, which was all these 3 species we haven't photographed before. We haven't photographed the southern rocogoma of that area. The western rock sphinx we have photographed, but not decent photographs. So this whole trip was definitely we learned a lot out of the trip in herping and the stuff in general, and also photographing them, which is another big part of herping. So I definitely want to do the trip again. And yeah. We travelled far and wide across the country in search of these beautiful animals. The scenery was unimaginable, beautiful scattered rocks all around the area.
little lizards running around here. Probably one of the sand lizards or the desert lizards. Now, these lizards here are diurnal, which means they are active during the day. They sit here and they bask. And when you come by, or anything like a predator comes by, they'll run fast as anything into these bushes. And then you can also see there's some birds that were hopping here, probably trying to eat one of them. But you can see their tails dragging along, and then these littles at the tail, and then their little feet coming along. But yeah, they're super fast, very hard to catch, and quite a cool species. This might be the Knox sand lizard, Medalos noxie. But yeah, they're quite cool lizards. We are right by the ocean right now. You can probably hear it. And yeah, they're just such cool lizards. And there's also these Namako dwarf adders that sit in these bushes. They might make like these little tracks in the sand, and you can follow those tracks into the bush right where they are, which is quite cool. But yeah, we're gonna go further and see what else we can find.
The scenery had changed a lot. We have moved from Agrabis to the coastal section of Namaqualand. Here, the reptiles have also changed a lot. They've adapted to the moist, sandy area of the coast.
Okay, so this right here is an Austin steel gecko, Pactactylus austini, active during the night. They burrow during the day in these dunes. They found 100 meters above sand, under 100 meters above sea level, or some have been found at altitude of 600 meters above sea level. They are quite common species, and this right here is a female. The males would have a yellow eyelid with a more yellowish pattern, with a lot more lighter pattern than females. This one threw off its tail, but they still fat in their tails, like most geckos do. And they have got not super webbed feet, but you can see they've got sort of webbed feet, so that the sand don't burn them. But it's not as the feet aren't webbed as much as the Namib dune gecko. And this guy will just burrow into that bush over there, like a little hole, or burrow, and then just live there. Cool.
The coast made things much easier. It wasn't so hot, so we could also be herping during the day. And it surely paid off. We were finding much more things during the day and during the night.
So this is Miss Desert Lizard, Medalus Gittinodactylus. You get them in these bushes right here at the coast, in these sandy dunes in the west coast. What they'll actually do is they'll run in these bushes, and then you'll think they're gone, but they're actually just at the base of the bush underneath the sand most of the times. They're a burrowing species. That's why they have like these thin snouts, like a shovel. And then you'll get them in burrows and things. But yeah, it's a really beautiful species. They look like sand. They have a forked tongue, and they also have a feather-like toes or feet. They can move their eyelids, as you can see. Yeah, he's got his eyelids closed, just for protection against the sun. And yeah, a uniform brown sandy color. And yeah, let's
let him go. You'll see he'll burrow right in here. There you can see he's starting. The Smith's desert lizard is a fascinating animal. It will hide into the sand to escape the sun. So this is the coastal dwarf skink, Acanthus lateralis. They live in this specific bush, but also under trash and things like that. They live like in these little, not in burrows, but just under the sand. They burrow themselves. You'll see when we release him. Right now he'll just burrow underneath the sand. But yeah, you find them in these bushes or undercover, like I said. They make these sort of tracks, just much smaller, undercover. You'll sometimes see them when you lift off the base of these bushes. They have like a black beady eye, and then just a little line that goes from the eye to the tip of the nose. They've got this orangey color, and they don't feel slimy at all. They just feel dryish. It just looks slimy because they shine a lot. These smooth scales. But yeah, Acanthus lateralis is quite a decent species. There can be found about 33 specimens in 1 hectare if you're in the right habitat, right here at the coast. That's why they're called the coastal dwarf burrowing skinks. But yeah, quite a decent species. Most of the reptiles here are fossorial, meaning they live underground. And with the immense amount of sand, this is quite easy. So this is the striped dwarf burrowing skink, Scelotes sexuliatus. I think there should be a little difference between the male and the female within the striping, but I don't know if that's been recorded or not. I've not really heard about that. They burrow in these loose alluvial sands underneath rocks. They got like a pinkish tail and a bunch of stripes, as the name suggests. And they've got one pair of limbs with 2 digits on each, if the digits has not been eaten, because that happens quite a lot. So they are good burrowers, and you can usually find them all raking in the soil. But yeah, Scelotes sexuliatus. We were super happy to find this species, since it was one of our targets. So this right here is Acanthus lateralis, the black form. You get them in an orangey form, as you can see here. You get them in that, just all orange. Then you get them in this black form. These black forms are not quite as common as the normal color, just those orangey colors all over. They have really small eyes. This is the Acanthus lateralis. But yeah, you can see that they have these kind of not so. It's kind of weird. The scales are weirdly formed compared to other lizards. Some people think these guys are snakes. You get them in specific types of bushes, and also onto rocks. As you can see, he's trying to burrow right now. He thinks that this rock is sand. But yeah, you'll see he will burrow right here. Release it from this sand. Just burrow himself into the rock. But yeah, quite a cool species. You'll see that he completely burrowed himself in there, so no predators can catch him. Yeah, let's see what else we can come across. It's fascinating how these animals survive in such harsh environments. So this is the Goya lineata, the striped leaf-toed gecko. They're really small. They don't really get very much bigger than this. So this is just a juvenile, but the adults don't also get much bigger than this. They're called the striped leaf-toed gecko because obviously they have these stripes, and they live amongst these rocky areas in parts of the Northern Cape, in semi-mastic or moist conditions. They're really small, as you can see. This one threw off his tail, which is a defense mechanism. But yeah, you got to be careful while catching these because they're so small you can squish them easily, and they play dead really easily. But yeah, this guy actually has quite a lot of ticks on him. But yeah, this is the Goya lineata. We're gonna just release him. Where was the property? Oh, it was. But yeah, I'm just gonna release him. Let's just put it back because it's quite a hassle to get him. Yeah, let's just release him in this bush. As the sun was settling behind the horizon, the nocturnal creatures came out to scavenge for prey. Look, so this right here is the Namakwa flat gecko, Aphrodira namaquensis. He's part of the flat gecko Aphrodira genus. Now the flat geckos, what's interesting about them is that they've, as you can see, quite flat to squeeze into smaller rock cracks. Now all of the flat geckos are rock type specific and plant growth specific. So, sort of like the flat lizards. The flat lizards are rock type specific. So these guys, you find them normally on these horizontal rock faces. This guy was found on the the vertical rock faces. This guy was found on the horizontal. He was roaming around here. He probably came out quite earlier, and then we found a few underneath cracks. So they would live underneath cracks rather than underneath rocks. The Pachydaculus webrise, more of a rock living species. And as you can see, they get a little bit bigger than this. This one is quite small, but the flat geckos aren't the biggest of genuses of geckos. There's one specific one, I totally now forgot, I'll think of it later, that's much bigger than all the other flat geckos. He gets about 10 centimeters, maybe I'll make like 5 centimeters long without the tail. With the tail was almost about as long as the body, as you can see with this flat gecko, so about 10 centimeters long with the tail. And these guys are quite beautifully marked. If you can find the beauty in their markings, they have got markings that make them camouflaged, as you can see. They've got markings, especially at night. They've got very good camouflage. They're quite darker at night than during the day, which is another adaptation they've gone through, and that helps them with night. They're darker, so the camouflage is much better. During the day, they're much lighter, so their camouflage fits the day but we'll leave him here and see what else we can find. So this is the Pachydatylus weberi, the Weber's gecko. Quite a common gecko here in the Northern Cape. More of the western side of the Northern Cape. And they live in these rock cracks and rock piles. A really beautiful gecko. You can see on top they have kind of these leopard markings on some of the you get like some of these little circles. They run quite fast for a gecko. They're also hard to get off like rocks because their toe pads are so nice and they grip really good. You can also see they have this orange in their eye, which is quite cool, which most geckos have. And then they also have this guy, you can see, has a regrown tail. You can see there he threw it off, probably a predator. But yeah, we're gonna go and search for some more animals. We weren't only finding small geckos, but we were also finding some larger species. So this right here is the Namako gecko, Pachydatylus namaquensis. You get them in large rock outcrops and in really deep cracks in those large rock outcrops here in the Northern Cape. They are quite a common species if you know where to look for them, but they're really cute, really large geckos. And what's actually interesting about them, they're not like other geckos. They don't have like these zigzag teeth. It's more of like fangs, kind of, if they bite you. And it's almost like the knives when they bite you, or needles. And then this guy has green eyes. We found one this morning, but he escaped. That one had like caramel colored eyes. You can also see he has a nice fat tail, which indicates that he's quite healthy. Now, like the thin-skinned gecko you get there in the Western Cape, their skin is very thin. So if you grab them roughly by their skin, you can actually rip off, but it will regrow back. You can see it actually has some injuries there. But yeah, really cool species.
So this right here is the southern rock agama atra. They're quite a common species. Now these guys differ quite from the ones you find in the Karoo. These guys are much bigger, and they don't so often have a reddish pattern. They have more a white stripe on top of their back. Here in the Northern Cape area. Guys, as you can see, that like this rocky, let's just grab him. They like these rocky regions, and they would, when they're threatened, they'll change color from this blue color to a more of a brownish color to blend in. And These guys, you'd often find them basking out on the rock at midday. They'll be standing up on the like this, kind of, almost like that. They'll always be standing up like that, keeping themselves straight up. And then sometimes when they're threatened, they'll actually hop up and down for some other reason. I'm not quite sure why they do that, but it's quite an interesting behavior of them. And then they also have this, it's actually blue this moment. As you can see, it's quite blue underneath. But if they get irritated, that will just change to a few purplish, bluish, dark blue veins. But as you can see, he's not let out all the blue yet. But a beautiful species photograph. Unfortunately, they usually come out when the sun is not at its best, so you often don't get super good photographs of these guys because the sun is quite harsh at the time they come out. So, and they also have quite big fangs there in front. You can probably see those fangs. Now those fangs do not possess venom, unlike common belief. Most people believe the gamas possess venom. They don't possess venom at all. They harmless, a harmless species, and except to insects. They're not harmless to insects, and believe it or not, big ones would also eat small rodents. Now what's interesting about these guys in the Northern Cape as well is, maybe if you zoom in a little bit, you can see those crocodile-like spines on the back, which you don't really get with the Gauteng populations. Now the guy that lives here at the Biological Research Station, Tiens, he said he's found one with giant of these spikes. Not guessing so big spikes, but not like ginormous as you think, but quite big spikes. And yeah, a Gama Ultra, the Southern Rock Gama.
The clouds were starting to roll in, and raindrops were starting to fall from the sky. Not very long after the rain, we started hearing some frogs calling in the distance.
So these two little frogs over here are the paradise toad. You get them after rain in Springbok. And what the tadpoles will do is they would actually they would swim in a school when their water body dries up. And these guys will actually also live in these rocky areas, or in burrows. And then you can see the beautiful bluish greenish color above. Kind of mimics the algae in these little ponds they live in. And you can also see that the legs also has that, and the bottom underneath is just a little bit speckled. And yeah, you could see that this little guy has just a little injury there on his earlobe. And then on this one you can actually see the poison glands. And then
Obviously you can see these guys are very jumpy. They like to jump a lot, but they can also walk. Let's see if he'll do it for us. There you go. And the rain frogs, the mackerel rain frog that also occurs here. We weren't lucky enough to find one of those. But yeah, maybe we'll see one. But they just come out after the rain. And these guys also come out after a bit of rain. But it's not nearly enough rain for the rain frogs. But yeah, we're lucky to have gotten rain yesterday night. But yeah, these frogs can just go on their way.
Sunny, here's a planet.
So this right here is the Western Rock skink, Trachylepis sulcata sulcata. Now there are 3 poorly described subspecies. I will not go into detail how they've been described, but mainly the species is widespread through the western half of southern Africa. And this right here is a female. These stripes are the female coloration, and then the black ones are a male coloration, and then you also get a golden form, which does not have the stripes. That golden will also be a male coloration. Now they're quite common to find, as I've said, and they eat the same diets as all other Trachylepis and most other skinks. They eat the small insects, and they quite quickly run off. This one's now sitting nicely and still. They live on rocky outcrops, usually near cracks or near rocks, and usually with a bush close to them, because they often seek shelter in the bush. Now they'll sleep at night. They'll sleep underneath rocks in a horizontal crack. You could find them in vertical cracks, but horizontal cracks are much easier for them to just go to sleep in. Now these guys' predators are big birds and snakes, like the Pithecia coronata we find here. All the other pitas will eat them. Small elapids would also eat them, like the Cape coral snake. Small Cape coral snakes would eat them. If a Cape cobra is small enough, you'll probably also take a meal of this little guy. Owls and eagles. But that's basically the predators. Now they're not too threatened because of their wide range, but they're definitely threatened by mining and also by agriculture. The mining possesses just what happens with the mining is they destroy the habitat. These rocky outcrops usually gets destroyed in a way, or just they put ground swell all over it, so then there's not much place for them to hide in. So that usually destroys the habitat. The agriculture is not that bad, doesn't have such a big effect on them, because the agriculture usually goes, they plant plants where these guys don't occur, but agriculture will have an influence on bird species there, which will pose a threat later on. So agriculture indirectly poses a threat to these species. Now this female here has got eggs, and so not to stress her out too much, we'll just let her run off on her way. You can see got quite jerky movements. That's how most skinks are.